The night in the outer region of the Andron galaxy was calm and wide like an endless ocean of stars. The station near the quiet planet Jovar moved in a slow circle. Its metal surface shined in the soft light coming from a blue sun far away. The aliens living on the station were used to travelers from many worlds. They saw ships of all shapes and sizes enter their docking ports every day. Some ships were loud. Some were bright. Some carried important missions. Some carried traders. But on this night something different happened. A very small human transport ship entered the airspace around the station. It moved without any sound. It gave no strong signal. It looked as if it wanted to enter unnoticed. The aliens in the control room looked at the screen with mild confusion. They checked for warnings or alerts but found nothing. The ship looked safe. It looked simple. One control officer said that it might be a lost traveler. Another officer said it might be a quiet research ship. None of them felt any danger. The ship reached the docking bay. The landing took place in a slow and smooth motion. A soft hiss came from the metal bridge as it locked into the entrance gate. For a few moments nobody came out. The aliens waited, wondering who would appear. Then the door slid open. A young human woman stepped out. Her name was Rhea Morgan. Rhea walked in a calm and quiet way. She had simple clothing and a small pack on her back. She looked like someone who had traveled far but carried no pride or fear. Her eyes moved slowly as she studied the place. She took a deep breath and looked around the docking bay. To the alien, she seemed harmless. Her body language was peaceful. Her steps were light. Even her face carried a soft and gentle expression. No alien on the station had expected someone like her. They imagined a pilot or commander or scientist. But Rhea looked like a quiet wanderer. An alien guard whispered that she looked too normal. He wondered why anyone would travel alone in such a small ship across a dangerous galaxy. Another alien suggested that humans often explored strange places and enjoyed long journeys. They both looked at her and felt no threat. She gave no sign of danger. Rhea saw the guard watching her. She smiled kindly and nodded in greeting. Her voice was soft as she spoke. She said that she hoped to rest for a short time before continuing her travel. The guards nodded and welcomed her. They did not ask many questions because nothing about her looked unusual. She did not carry any device. She did not carry any weapon. She only had a small bag with basic supplies. She walked toward the inspection area where visitors normally waited. Her simple presence drew small attention from passing aliens. Some glanced at her and kept going. Others paused for a second, then walked on. The station was a busy place. One more visitor did not change anything. But deep inside Rhea's mind something was not calm. She felt a slight pressure behind her eyes. A small echo of energy ran along her nerves. She ignored it because she had experienced the sensation many times before. It happened in new places. It happened when she was near unknown energy fields. She always believed it was a mind adjusting to different environments. She did not want anyone to notice the strange feeling inside her body. She hoped it would settle soon. She sat down on a metal bench and looked at the bright ceiling lights. She kept her breathing slow and regular. She did not want the pressure inside her mind to grow. She told herself that she was safe. She told herself that nothing strange would happen. She tried to calm the rising warmth inside her chest. The aliens around her continued with their normal tasks. None of them suspected anything. A tall alien engineer walked past her with a scanner. A pair of young alien students carried books and laughed softly as they crossed the bay. A delivery robot rolled from one corner to another. Everything was peaceful. Rhea felt her heartbeat steady, but she also felt a small pull from the energy around the station. It felt as if something inside the metal walls whispered to the hidden part of her mind. She did not understand why her body reacted like this. She had visited many stations before without trouble, but this place felt different. Something in the structure of the station, or maybe in the planet Jovi below, was waking the force hidden deep inside her. She closed her eyes for a moment and tried to focus. She did not want any sudden reaction. She did not want to draw attention. Her only wish was to pass through the station quietly, rest, and continue toward her next destination. An alien officer approached her slowly. He asked if she needed help or guidance. She answered politely and thanked him. Her voice remained soft and steady. The officer smiled and walked back, still thinking she was the most peaceful visitor he had seen in weeks. Rhea placed her hand together and waited. She thought of her past. She thought of the human experiment that changed her life long ago, the experiment that touched something deep inside her mind. She remembered how she had tried for years to keep that strange part of her under control. Most days she lived like a normal human. Most days the power inside her stayed quiet. But not today. As she breathed in, she felt a sudden shift under her skin. It was faint but real. It was like a ripple of warm air moving through her bones. Her heart gave a single strong thump. Her fingertips tingled. She opened her eyes quickly. Nothing around her looked different. The aliens were still talking and working. The lights were still bright. The air still warm. But she felt a deep warning inside her mind. She whispered to herself and told her body to stay calm. She did not want energy to rise. She did not want the silent force inside her to wake. She did not want anyone nearby to sense anything strange. She tried to breathe slower, but her body responded in strange ways. Then she sensed another shift. Something in the station reacted to her presence. She could not explain it, but she felt it. It was as if the machines and the walls sent a silent signal. Not a danger signal, but a recognition signal. This reaction made her inner energy stir again. Rhea sat still. She lowered her eyes. She tried not to move or draw any attention. But she already understood one thing. Her quiet arrival would not remain quiet for long. Something was waking inside her. Something she had tried to keep hidden for years. Something that made her more than just a traveler. And the aliens on this station would soon see it. Rhea had been sitting quietly on the metal bench for a few minutes. The calm of the station surrounded her. The alien guards moved through the docking bay, their long limbs carrying trays and tools. Machines hummed softly. The air felt safe. Yet, deep inside her, a quiet tension grew. She could feel it in her chest and through her fingers. A strange pull from the station stirred her senses. It was faint at first, almost like a whisper of wind against her mind. Then it grew stronger. The first sign came from the floor beneath her feet. A subtle vibration ran through the metal panels. She felt it as a slight hum that made her toes tingle. It was not a threat, but it was unusual. She looked around. The alien guards continued their work. They had not noticed anything. She closed her eyes and tried to focus. She tried to calm the strange energy that pressed against her mind. Rhea knew the signs. When the energy around her shifted unexpectedly, it meant her own power inside her was responding. For most humans, nothing like this would happen. For Rhea, it was different. Years ago, she had been part of an experiment that unlocked a rare ability in her mind. That ability allowed her to interact with energy in ways other humans could not. Most of the time, it stayed dormant. Most of the time, she looked normal, like any traveler. But sometimes, in the presence of unknown energy, her power woke without warning. The station's metal walls and machines carried a strange resonance. Her power sensed it. The hum grew into a subtle vibration that moved through her legs. Her hands rested on her knees, but her fingers twitched slightly as if answering a silent call. She tried to slow her heartbeat and control the force, but it had already begun to stay. At that moment, the aliens noticed the first change. A flicker ran along the docking bay lights. It was so brief that many officers thought it was a glitch. But one of the guards saw the change in Rhea's posture. Her eyes glimmered faintly, reflecting the soft light from the ceiling. He stepped back, instinctively sensing something unusual. The others glanced toward her, but saw only a quiet human sitting with calm composure. Rhea opened her eyes. The glow faded for a moment. She whispered a few words to herself, not in any language, but in a rhythm that helped her focus. The energy inside her settled slightly, though it was still restless. She could feel the pull stronger near the machinery. Her instincts told her it was not dangerous, only powerful. A soft hum traveled from her chest to her fingertips. She felt it in every nerve, a signal that the quiet station was about to test her. The aliens began to watch more closely. One of the senior officers approached with careful steps. His long, thin limbs moved quietly on the metal floor. He stopped a few meters away and tilted his head. His skin reflected a soft green hue from the lights. He asked politely if Rhea was feeling well. Her voice remained calm and soft as she answered. She said she was fine. She smiled gently, yet the subtle energy around her did not disappear. Rhea sensed that the station itself was responding to her. Her body and mind had learned to feel energy in ways no other human could. The humming vibration grew slowly into something she could not ignore. She looked at the metallic walls. She could almost see the lines of energy flowing through the station's structure. It was beautiful, like threads of light in the air. She felt both awe and caution. Then the first real stir happened. The floor trembled slightly under her feet. It was enough to make the nearest guard stumble back one step. The light above her flickered more clearly, and a faint ringing sound echoed in the docking bay. The other aliens turned toward the noise. They saw nothing unusual except Reyes sitting quietly. The tremor was not strong enough to cause damage, but it was noticeable. Reyes' breathing remained controlled, but she felt a familiar surge of her inner force. She placed her hands lightly on the bench beside her. She could feel the vibrations respond to her touch. Her energy moved outward in a gentle wave, almost like a heartbeat in the metal of the station. It was invisible, but alive. The aliens now noticed the strange pull. They did not fully understand it, but they sensed it was extraordinary. One of the younger officers whispered to a colleague. He said that humans sometimes carried unusual gifts, but he had never seen one like this. The colleague nodded, eyes wide, and watched Rhea with growing curiosity. No one moved closer. They were unsure whether to interfere or wait. Rhea felt the stir grow stronger. She closed her eyes again. She wanted to remain calm, but the energy around her had its own rhythm. She could feel the resonance between her mind and the station. It was not dangerous, but it was alive. She realized that she had entered a place full of hidden power. The station itself seemed to recognize her presence. Her abilities, which had been quiet for most of her life, were reacting naturally. She whispered to herself again, trying to focus. She allowed a small pulse of her energy to flow outward, controlled and careful. The lights flickered slightly more, but they did not fail. The aliens stepped back slowly, realizing that the quiet human had a force they could not measure. It was not violent. It was not threatening. It was simply extraordinary. Rhea opened her eyes and looked at the aliens with calm determination. She wanted them to understand that she meant no harm. She lifted her small pack and placed it gently on the floor beside her. She spoke softly, telling them she only wished to rest and continue her journey. Her voice was quiet, but the energy in the room seemed to respond as if acknowledging her calm. The aliens sensed that she was more than she appeared. Their curiosity grew, and some of them started whispering to one another. They had never seen a human whose presence alone could stir the energy of their station. The senior officer approached again, slowly, with caution. He asked questions about her journey, her needs, and her intentions. Rhea answered each one with patience and politeness. She remained calm and quiet, yet the pulse in the room continued softly. Rhea realized that her arrival had already begun to change the station. She had wanted a quiet visit, but her presence was too powerful to remain unnoticed. The energy inside her, the gift she had learned control over the years, had responded naturally to the unknown. She had not intended to awaken it, but it had awakened anyway. She smiled faintly, accepting that a journey had begun differently than she imagined. The aliens looked at her with a mixture of awe and caution. They sensed a force they could not measure. They were not afraid, but they were curious. For the first time, they realized that humans could carry extraordinary power beyond technology and training. Rhea, sitting quietly on the metal bench, had already made an impression that would be remembered. As she prepared to stand and move further into the station, she felt a small thrill of anticipation. The power inside her had calmed slightly, but it was still alive. She knew that in the coming moments, it might awaken more clearly. She also knew that she had the choice to guide it, to remain peaceful, and to use it only when necessary. The quiet arrival had already stirred the station. The aliens had seen only a hint, but the first signs of extraordinary human potential were now clear. Rhea's journey was beginning, and even in silence, Rhea moved carefully through the docking bay. The soft hum of the station surrounded her. The aliens continued their tasks, but their eyes occasionally flicked toward her. They noticed her calm movements, her quiet presence, and the faint shimmer of energy that seemed to follow her. Even though she tried to remain ordinary, the force inside her had awakened slightly and could not be hidden. As she walked, Rhea felt the floor beneath her respond to her presence. The metal panels vibrated softly, like the pulse of a quiet heartbeat. She slowed her steps and placed her hands lightly at her sides, trying to focus. Her mind remembered every lesson she had learned during her years of training to control this rare gift. The energy responded to her thoughts, to her will, and to her emotions. It was subtle now, but she knew it could grow strong quickly. The first clear sign came when she reached a long corridor. The lights above flickered in a pattern that mirrored the rhythm of her heartbeat. She paused and closed her eyes. She had felt this pattern before, in remote stations and unknown planets. It was as if the environment itself was sensing her presence. She raised her hand slightly, not in command, but in recognition. The faint glow of energy in her palms pulsed softly, reaching outward like a gentle wave. One of the alien guards, a tall figure with silver-tinted skin, took a cautious step back. He had worked with hundreds of visitors, but he had never seen a human whose mere presence affected the station. He looked at Rhea and then at the corridor lights, realizing the flicker was connected to her. His voice was low as he asked another guard if he was seeing what he was seeing. Both officers exchanged glances, a mixture of curiosity and awe in their eyes. Rhea opened her eyes slowly. She saw their astonishment, but she did not stop her calm progress. She wanted them to understand that she meant no harm. Her voice remained soft when she spoke to the guards, assuring them she only wished to continue her journey peacefully. The hum in the corridor increased slightly, as if the station itself was responding to her words. A soft vibration moved through the walls, and the floor beneath her trembled lightly. It was not enough to cause fear, but it was noticeable. She had expected the stir, but the strength surprised her. She had learned to control the force, but the station's unique energy seemed to awaken something within her that she could not fully anticipate. She took a steady breath, allowing the pulse of energy to move without fear or hesitation. The aliens watched closely. One of the officers whispered that she must be more than human. They had studied humans for many years, noting their intelligence, creativity, and resilience. But this human, this quiet woman, displayed a presence that went beyond ordinary understanding. She did not carry weapons. She did not rely on technology. Yet the force she emitted was undeniable. It was gentle but powerful, controlled but alive. Rhea reached the center of the corridor, where a cluster of machinery lined the walls. She paused again and let her senses reach out. The energy inside her responded to the machines, moving like threads of light connecting her mind to the environment. She could sense the vibrations in the metal, the currents of energy flowing through wires and circuits. The station itself felt alive, and it recognized her as a visitor with a rare connection to unseen forces. She raised her hand slightly, feeling the glow increase in response to her intention. The lights flickered again, this time in a more defined rhythm, and a low hum echoed through the corridor. The aliens took cautious steps back, unsure how to respond. One of them reached for a scanner but then stopped, sensing that no ordinary device could measure what was happening. They had seen technology interact with energy, but never a living being controlling it with such natural grace. Rhea spoke softly, not to them, but to the energy itself. She whispered words of calm and peace, sending her intention through the glow that surrounded her palms. The pulse of energy responded, moving smoothly, wrapping around the machinery, flowing through the corridor without causing harm. The aliens were mesmerized. They realized that the human was not dangerous by choice. She was learning, adjusting, and controlling a power that could have frightened them if misused. The senior officer stepped forward cautiously, his silver skin reflecting the lights above. He studied her movements and the response of the energy. He asked if she understood what was happening. Rhea nodded and explained in simple terms that her power was sensitive to unknown environments. She told him that she had trained for years to control it, but that each place reacted differently. The station's structure and energy fields had awakened a new level within her. As she spoke, the pulse of energy moved outward from her, flowing softly along the walls. Machines hummed in resonance. Even the air felt alive, vibrating gently as if acknowledging her presence. The aliens could feel the effect but could not see it fully. They could only watch as a quiet human shaped the atmosphere with calm and intent. Rhea took a deep breath and let the energy settle slightly. She felt the first sense of balance since she had entered the station. Her gift had responded, but she had learned to guide it with patience. The alien sensed that she had chosen peace over chaos, control over fear. They watched her closely, understanding that the human before them was extraordinary in a way that no technology could replicate. She moved toward the center of the docking bay where other visitors normally waited. She kept her steps slow, her gaze steady. The faint glow in her hands diminished slightly as she focused inward. The energy that had stirred now rested under her control, like a sleeping current beneath the calm surface of water. The aliens noticed the difference and felt a mix of relief and admiration. One of the engineers, who had been observing from a distance, whispered to his companion that she must be connected to some rare human ability. The other nodded, eyes wide, unable to fully explain what they had seen. The hum of the station seemed quieter now, but the memory of the stir lingered. They understood that this human could influence the very environment without touching a single device. Rhea stopped in front of a quiet observation window. She looked out at the stars, breathing steadily. She had achieved control for now, but she knew the energy would not remain dormant for long. The station's unique fields had awakened it, and the journey ahead would likely bring more tests of her strength and control. She smiled faintly, confident in her ability to guide it with calm and patience. The aliens continued to watch her, their minds full of questions. They sensed a living presence unlike any they had encountered. She was not a threat. She was not a weapon. She was a quiet human who carried a power that demanded respect. In the moments after the first clear stir of energy, Rhea had already impressed them. They knew that her arrival had changed the perception of humans forever, showing that even the quietest visitor could hold extraordinary potential. As Rhea prepared to move further into the station, she felt anticipation and readiness. The energy inside her was calm but aware. She understood that her journey was only beginning. The aliens had seen the first clear sign of her power, and they would remember. After the first stir of her power in the docking bay, Rhea felt a mixture of calm and alertness. She knew that what had happened was only the beginning. The station itself had awakened something inside her, something that she had carried for many years in quiet solitude. She walked slowly through the station corridors, her hands lightly touching the smooth metal walls for balance and guidance. The aliens continued their tasks, but their eyes followed her every move. Even from a distance, they sensed her extraordinary presence. Rhea reached a quiet chamber where the senior officer had arranged a small area for visitors. The chamber was simple but well lit. Soft light reflected off the polished metal surfaces, and the hum of machinery was present but subtle. She lowered her pack gently onto the floor and looked around. The aliens in the room gave her space, observing her quietly. They were no longer curious or nervous. They were aware that she carried something rare, something they could not measure with their devices. The senior officer approached her slowly. His tall form moved with careful respect. He asked her if she understood the unusual reaction of the station to her arrival. Rhea nodded. She spoke softly, explaining that she carried a unique human ability. She told them that years ago, humans had conducted experiments to explore the hidden energy within the mind. Rhea had been a participant, one of the few who awakened a rare and extraordinary potential. Most humans could not sense or control energy in this way, but she could. Her voice remained calm and gentle as she continued. She explained that her power allowed her to feel, sense, and even influence energy in her surroundings. It was subtle when she was in familiar places, but in unknown environments, like this station or the planet Jova below, it often awakened without warning. She admitted that it was difficult to control at first, and that she had spent years learning to guide it patiently. The aliens listened intently. Some whispered to one another, realizing that humans might be far more complex than they had imagined. One of the engineers asked if she could control her power at will. Rhea nodded. She explained that while she could guide it, the energy sometimes responded to the presence of unknown or strong fields. That was why it had stirred when she first arrived. The station itself had a unique resonance that had interacted with her ability. A young alien officer tilted his head, curious. He asked if the energy could harm anyone. Rhea shook her head gently. She said that she only used her power with intention. If she chose, it could be strong, but she had never acted with malice. The energy could be dangerous if uncontrolled, but she had trained to always keep it calm. The aliens felt reassured, understanding that she was aware of her responsibility. Rhea then shared a piece of her personal story. She had grown up on a distant human colony, far from the central worlds. From a young age, she had felt differences in herself. She could sense subtle shifts in energy around her. Some humans had noticed it too, but they could not understand it. When the experiment came, she volunteered with hope and curiosity. The scientists had awakened the potential, but they had also warned her about the challenges. Many years of training had followed. She had learned to control her abilities through meditation, focus, and careful observation. The aliens in the chamber were impressed by her honesty and composure. They realized that the quiet human before them was not only extraordinary in power but also wise in thought. She had lived a life of preparation and patience. Her calm presence was a result of years of practice, not mere chance. The station itself seemed to recognize this as her energy spread softly through the chamber, not as a threat but as a subtle signature of her being. Rhea stood and walked slowly to a window that looked out toward the planet Jovi. The surface glowed faintly under the light of the distant sun. Strange formations moved gently across the landscape, their shapes shifting like living energy. Rhea could sense the resonance of the planet, and she felt a familiar pulse in her chest. She whispered softly, allowing the feeling to flow through her mind. She could understand the connection between her own energy and the natural forces of Jovi. The senior officer watched her quietly, sensing that her connection with energy extended beyond the walls of the station. He asked her if she had encountered other worlds that reacted to her in this way. Rhea shook her head. She said that most worlds were stable and ordinary for her, but some rare places, like Jova, had hidden energy patterns that interacted with her potential. She added that her ability allowed her to sense patterns that no machine could detect. Another officer asked if she could teach them to understand her energy. Rhea smiled gently. She said that understanding her energy required patience and a willingness to feel. It could not be taught quickly, but she could guide them in observing subtle shifts in resonance. The aliens listened with interest, realizing that humans might have knowledge that exceeded the limits of their technology. Rhea then shared an important point. She explained that her power was not meant for war control. She had learned to respect the force inside her. It was a gift for understanding, for connection, for communication with the universe in ways beyond ordinary perception. The aliens nodded, appreciating her wisdom. They realized that the quiet human before them carried not only extraordinary potential, but also responsibility and integrity. The chamber was filled with a soft energy as Rhea concluded her explanation. The aliens sensed that they were in the presence of someone rare, someone who could change how they thought about humans. She had arrived quietly, but she carried a story and a power that demanded attention. They understood that her visit would not be ordinary and that the moments following her arrival would set the tone for the journey ahead. Rhea took a deep breath and looked at each alien in the room. Her gaze was calm but focused. She said that she wished to continue her journey with respect for their station and for the planet below. She asked for guidance in understanding the fields of energy on Jovi. The aliens felt honored by her words. They saw her not as a visitor, but as someone who could bridge worlds and share knowledge in a peaceful way. The senior officer stepped forward and offered assistance. He explained that the station could provide her with information, guidance, and a small team to help explore the planet safely. Rhea nodded and thanked him. She felt a quiet satisfaction. Her arrival had not caused harm. Her presence had been acknowledged, and her extraordinary potential had been respected. The first stir of her energy had revealed who she truly was, and now the aliens understood that she was not a threat, but a traveler with purpose and care. Rhea then paused at the center of the chamber. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the subtle hum of the station. The pulse of her energy had calmed but remained aware. She had shared the truth about herself, and in doing so, had created a bridge of understanding between herself and the aliens. Rhea stood in the quiet chamber, feeling the gentle hum of energy around her. The aliens had listened to her story, understood her abilities, and now they were faced with a decision. The station council would meet to discuss what to do with this extraordinary human who had arrived quietly but had revealed remarkable power. Rhea waited calmly. She knew that her abilities could make some nervous, but she also trusted that her honesty and care would guide their decision. The senior officer approached her again. He explained that the council would convene in the main hall to review her situation. Rhea nodded and followed him. The corridors of the station were wider now, filled with various types of aliens moving quickly. Some glanced at her with curiosity. Others whispered among themselves, sensing the unusual energy that surrounded her. She walked slowly, her steps light and deliberate. The hum of her presence followed her, subtle but noticeable. The main hall was large and circular, with a high ceiling and walls lined with observation panels. The council members were already seated in their places. They represented different species and roles within the station. Some had scales, some had soft skin, some had patterns of light across their bodies. Each looked toward Rhea as she entered. Their eyes were filled with questions, curiosity, and a hint of caution. They had seen her energy, they had felt the subtle stir in the station, and they now wanted to understand her intentions fully. Rhea stepped forward and spoke softly. She told the council that she had traveled far to explore the planet below, a place called HFY. She explained that her abilities allowed her to sense energy patterns, vibrations, and forces that ordinary machines could not detect. She had felt the resonance of the planet from above and wished to study it carefully. She promised that she meant no harm. Her voice was calm, confident, and gentle. The council members exchanged glances. Some were concerned about the potential risks. They had never seen a human with such a gift, and they were unsure how it might interact with the station or the planet. Others were intrigued. They saw the potential for knowledge, for exploration, and for understanding forces that had remained hidden for centuries. One council member, a tall being with luminous eyes, spoke first. He asked Rhea how she could control her abilities and whether she could promise to maintain peace. Rhea nodded and smiled softly. She explained that she had trained for many years to control her power. She told them that while her energy might respond instinctively to strong or unknown forces, she had learned to guide it carefully. She promised that she would only use it with intention, and that she wished to explore, learn, and assist in understanding the natural patterns of the planet below. The council listened attentively. They sensed truth in her words. They felt the calm in her presence and recognized her care. Yet a few members were still wary. They asked detailed questions about the range of her power, about what could happen if she lost control, and about whether other humans possessed similar abilities. Rhea answered each question with patience and honesty. She told them that her abilities were rare and unique, that she had spent a lifetime learning to maintain balance, and that she had no intention to cause harm. As she spoke, the subtle glow of her energy moved gently around her hands. It was not threatening, but it was present, a quiet signature of her potential. The council members watched closely, their expressions shifting from caution to fascination. They had never seen a being capable of influencing energy in such a natural way. Their previous assumptions about humans, about travelers, and about the limits of life were changing. One member asked whether Rhea could demonstrate her abilities in controlled manner. She agreed. She stepped forward and extended her hands lightly. The air around her seemed to respond, vibrating subtly. A small object, a loose piece of station equipment, lifted slightly from the floor, moving gently as if guided by an invisible hand. The council members gasped softly, impressed but not frightened. Rhea lowered the object carefully, placing it back on the floor. She smiled and explained that her power was a tool for observation and interaction, not for destruction. The demonstration eased the council's concerns. They began to see the potential benefits of her abilities. Her energy could help study the unusual planet below, detect hidden forces, and perhaps even prevent natural dangers. One council member, with scales that shimmered gold, spoke in favor of granting her permission to explore the planet. Another member, with soft blue skin, agreed but requested that she be accompanied by a small team for safety. Rhea accepted their terms. She explained that she welcomed guidance and support, and that she wanted to ensure that her journey was both productive and safe. The council members nodded, feeling reassured. They sensed that she understood her responsibilities and that she would act with care. The decision was unanimous. Rhea would be allowed to descend to the planet with a small team of aliens who would assist her in her exploration. After the council meeting, Rhea prepared for her descent. She gathered supplies, checked her equipment, and reviewed the information provided by the station. The alien guides who would accompany her were introduced. They were skilled, knowledgeable, and cautious, yet their expressions reflected respect and curiosity toward Rhea. They sensed that she was unlike any human they had met, and they were eager to see her abilities in action in the planet's environment. As the small team moved toward the shuttle, Rhea took a moment to reflect. She had arrived quietly, and in just a few minutes, she had revealed extraordinary potential, gained the trust of the council, and prepared to explore a world few had ever studied. The subtle power inside her had stirred in the station, demonstrating her connection to energy and resonance. Now, as she prepared to descend to HFY, she felt anticipation and readiness. She knew the planet held challenges, surprises, and discoveries, and she was prepared to meet them with calm and focus. The shuttle door closed gently behind them. Rhea settled into her seat, feeling the hum of the ship beneath her. She glanced at her alien companions. Their eyes reflected both caution and admiration. She smiled softly, knowing that this journey would be shared, and that her abilities could be used responsibly to understand the strange forces that awaited them on Jovi. As the shuttle prepared to leave the station, the subtle energy around Rhea pulsed once more. It was quiet, controlled, and aware. She breathed steadily, centering herself. The first reactions of the aliens had shown her that her presence could inspire respect and understanding. She had not arrived with force, but with calmness and honesty. Her power, though extraordinary, had been a tool for communication and connection rather than fear. The shuttle moved slowly toward the planet's surface. Through the observation window, the glow of Joval spread beneath them. Strange formations and gentle patterns of light reflected the planet's hidden energy. Rhea felt a familiar pulse in her chest, resonating with the patterns below. She whispered softly, allowing her mind and energy to connect with the planet in a careful, peaceful manner. The alien team watched her with fascination. The shuttle glided smoothly through the thin atmosphere of Jovi. Outside the observation windows, the planet stretched endlessly, a landscape of glowing ridges and shimmering plains. Strange colors danced on the surface, reflecting the light of the distant blue sun. Rhea felt her heart beat steadily, a mix of anticipation and calm focus. The subtle hum of energy inside her resonated with the patterns she saw below. She could feel the pulse of the planet, faint but alive, reaching out to touch her senses. Her alien companions prepared for landing, checking equipment and communicating softly in their own language. They had been trained for exploration missions, but none had ever accompanied a human with abilities like Rhea. They observed her quietly, noting how her presence seemed to influence a subtle energy within the shuttle. Nothing dangerous had happened, yet it was clear that Rhea was extraordinary. The shuttle's landing gear touched the surface with a gentle hiss. Dust and small motes of energy particles swirled around as the shuttle came to a complete stop. Rhea's heart remained calm, her breathing steady. She opened the hatch slowly and stepped out onto the glowing surface. The ground beneath her feet was firm but slightly warm, radiating a faint vibration. She felt the pulse of energy beneath the soil and rocks, sensing patterns that seemed to shift with every subtle movement of the air. The alien team followed her, scanning the surroundings. They carried portable devices designed to detect energy and environmental changes. Yet, even their most advanced equipment could not fully capture the patterns that Rhea sensed naturally. She walked lightly across the glowing plains, feeling the flow of the planet through the soles of her boots. Each step was deliberate, controlled, and aware. The first discovery came quickly. Small formations of crystalline structures rose from the ground, reflecting the light in dazzling colors. The aliens moved closer to examine them, noting that the crystals carried a faint resonance. Rhea knelt beside one formation and placed her hands lightly on the surface. She felt the energy within the crystals responding to her presence. It was subtle, like a heartbeat, and it moved in harmony with the pulse she carried inside her. One of the aliens, tall and with luminous blue eyes, asked if the crystal's energy was dangerous. Rhea shook her head gently. She explained that it was natural energy, alive in its own way, and that it responded to beings with awareness. She said that her ability allowed her to feel the patterns and vibrations of energy that others could not detect. The alien nodded, fascinated. They had studied many strange worlds, but they had never seen a human connect so directly with the living energy of a planet. Rhea stood and gestured for the team to move forward carefully. The plain stretched endlessly, glowing softly under the blue sun. Strange formations shifted gently as if breathing. Some areas had thin streams of light moving across the surface, like rivers of energy. She felt the resonance of the planet increase slightly, responding to her presence. Her abilities, trained for years to guide and observe, allowed her to sense these subtle currents without disturbing them. As they walked, a low vibration spread through the ground. The alien team paused, scanning the area with their devices. Rhea felt it too, a ripple of energy that moved like a wave beneath the surface. She knelt and extended her hands toward the vibration. The ripple slowed and flowed around her touch, responding to the calm she projected. She looked at the aliens, who were amazed to see how naturally her energy interacted with the planet. She whispered softly to herself, not in words, but in a rhythm that guided her power. The alien team watched in awe as the ground beneath them seemed to respond to her gentle influence. The vibration smoothed. The energy of the crystals around them stabilized, and the patterns of light shifted to reflect harmony rather than chaos. The team understood that Rhea's presence was not just powerful, but purposeful and controlled. One alien asked if her ability could sense dangers that machines could not detect. Rhea nodded. She explained that energy patterns often reveal disturbances or threats before they become visible. Her sensors could detect shifts in resonance, vibrations, and hidden currents that machines might miss. The aliens' eyes widened. They realized that her abilities could provide a unique safety and guidance for the mission ahead. The team moved deeper into the glowing plains. Rhea's senses remained alert. She felt faint movements beneath the surface, subtle and almost imperceptible, but enough to tell her that life and energy thrived beneath the ground. She instructed the team to step carefully, ensuring that their presence did not disturb the natural flow of the planet's energy. The aliens followed her lead, impressed by her understanding and respect for the environment. After some time, they reached a valley where light flowed across the surface in gentle streams. The formations here were taller, crystalline towers that seemed almost alive. Rhea knelt and placed her hands on one of the towers. The energy pulsed gently in response, spreading in waves that reached the surrounding structures. She felt a sense of connection with the planet, a dialogue of energy that was silent but vivid. The aliens observed silently, understanding that Rhea's presence had unlocked an interaction with the planet that they could not have achieved with technology alone. One of them asked if the energy could be harnessed. Rhea shook her head. She explained that it was not for control or use, but for observation, understanding, and respect. The planet's energy was alive, and it required careful attention. Disturbing it recklessly could cause imbalance. Her role was to guide and interact with harmony, not to dominate. Suddenly, a stronger vibration ran through the ground. Rhea felt it immediately, a pulse that moved through her body. The alien team froze, scanning rapidly. The pulse was not dangerous, but it carried the signal of a living presence. Rhea stood slowly and extended her hands. The energy responded to her, spreading outward in waves that softened the vibration. The aliens gasped softly. They realized that she was interacting with a force far greater than the crystals or currents of energy she had sensed before. Rhea smiled faintly, knowing that this was a moment she had trained for. Her abilities allowed her to communicate with the planet in ways no machine or ordinary being could. She guided the pulse gently, calming the energy and creating harmony in the valley. The alien team watched in awe, understanding that this human was extraordinary not just in power, but in wisdom and patience. The first hours on Jovi had proven her abilities. She had arrived quietly, stirred energy, gained trust, and now connected with the living force of the planet itself. The team realized that they were witnessing something rare, a human who could interact with planet as if it were aware and responsive to her presence. The subtle energy around Rhea continued to pulse, controlled, aware, and alive. Rhea looked toward the horizon, the glowing plain stretching endlessly. She knew this was only the beginning. The planet held secrets, challenges, and discoveries that required careful observation and gentle guidance. Her abilities, awakened by the station and strengthened by her training, would allow her to explore safely and understand the hidden forces around her. Rhea had been exploring the glowing plains of Jovar for hours, her senses fully attuned to the pulses of energy beneath her feet. The alien team followed cautiously, trusting her guidance as she moved carefully across the strange terrain. The crystalline towers rose taller as they approached a canyon that glimmered with deep colors, shifting like liquid light. Rhea paused at the edge, sensing the rhythm of the planet change. Something was stirring below. The vibrations under her feet were stronger now, moving in patterns unlike anything she had felt before. Her energy responded instantly, pulsing gently to communicate with the living forces around her. The aliens noticed her hands glowing softly as she focused, though they could not see the subtle waves of energy she sent outward. One of them asked in hushed tones if he could feel danger. Rhea shook her head. She explained that it was not danger, but a living force, something ancient and powerful, awakened by their presence. She crouched slightly and extended her hands toward the canyon floor. The vibrations intensified, and suddenly a shape began to rise from the shadows. At first, it seemed like a distortion of light, but as it became clearer, the alien team froze in astonishment. A massive creature, unlike any being they had ever seen, emerged. Its body was formed from glowing crystalline energy, jagged yet fluid, and its eyes pulsed with the same rhythm as the planet beneath it. The alien stepped back instinctively, uncertain whether to attack or flee. Rhea held up her hands calmly, signaling them to stay still. She whispered softly, not in words, but in rhythm and intent, reaching out to the energy of the creature. The being paused, sensing her presence. The air shimmered around it, the ground beneath it vibrating in response to her calm focus. The aliens watched, realizing that the human before them was not afraid. She was not commanding the creature with force, but guiding it gently with understanding. The monster was not hostile. Its movements were cautious, curious, and aware. Rhea could feel its intelligence through the energy patterns it emitted. It was alive in a way that was deeply connected to the planet itself. She extended a hand, and the creature stepped closer, its massive crystalline form reflecting light in dazzling colors. The aliens gasped softly, unable to comprehend how she could interact with a being of such size and power without fear. Rhea spoke to the team quietly. She explained that the creature was a guardian of the planet's energy, a protector that had remained hidden for centuries. It had never encountered beings like them before, and its initial caution was natural. She assured them that if they remained calm and respectful, the creature would not attack. The aliens nodded, their fears slowly replaced by awe. They watched in silence as Rhea continued to connect with the Guardian. She closed her eyes and let her energy blend with the pulse of the creature. The vibrations around them synchronized, the glowing planes responding as harmony spread outward. The creature lowered its head slightly, acknowledging her presence. Rhea felt a surge of connection, understanding that the Guardian was not a threat, but a being that had tested them silently. The aliens realized that what they had initially thought of as a monster was not evil or dangerous, but a powerful life form connected to the planet itself. The Guardian extended one massive limb, crystalline and flexible, toward Rhea. She reached out her hand gently, letting the energy between them meet. There was no fear, no aggression, only a profound recognition of balance and awareness. The aliens were astonished as they saw this interaction. Machines could measure energy, but they could not perceive connection, empathy, or trust. Rhea had achieved all of these naturally, showing the true strength of her abilities. The Guardian pulsed softly, a rhythm that resonated throughout the canyon. The surrounding formation shimmered in response, light flowing along the crystalline towers in beautiful, shifting patterns. Rhea guided the energy carefully, keeping her focus steady and calm. The aliens could feel the subtle change, a harmony that transformed fear into understanding. They understood that the being they feared was now a companion, guided by Rhea's quiet presence. Suddenly, the ground trembled slightly. Smaller crystalline creatures began to emerge, drawn by the energy and the pulse of the planet. Rhea remained calm, extending her hand to communicate. The energy radiated outward in gentle waves, guiding the creatures without aggression. The aliens watched in awe as dozens of glowing forms moved closer, curious and cautious. Each responded to her calm authority, recognizing her as a non-threatening presence. The senior officer whispered to the others, marveling at her control. He said that no technology could achieve this. No machine could communicate with a living planetary force in this way. The aliens had observed Rhea's abilities on the station and during the descent, but this moment surpassed all expectations. She was not just powerful. She was wise, patient, and capable of understanding forces that had remained hidden for centuries. Rhea smiled faintly, feeling the harmony settle. She had shown the Guardian and his companions that they meant no harm, that they were visitors seeking understanding rather than dominance. The energy around her calmed, the vibrations softened, and the glowing planes reflected the peaceful resonance of their interaction. The alien team took cautious steps forward, realizing they could now move without alarming the creatures. The Guardian pulsed again, this time with a rhythm that seemed like gratitude. It lowered its massive form, allowing the team to approach more closely. Rhea extended her hand once more, connecting with the energy of the being. The aliens marveled at the gentle authority of this human. She had arrived quietly, but in 10 seconds she had revealed a presence that was extraordinary, commanding respect not through fear, but through harmony. The creatures now moved alongside the team, curious and unafraid. Rhea guided them gently, using her abilities to maintain balance in the canyon. She explained to the aliens that the beings of HFY were sensitive to energy, aware of intent, and capable of perceiving emotions through resonance. Machines could not measure these subtleties. Only a being trained to observe and interact carefully could navigate such an environment safely.